and welcome to Myers ASMR. I'm so glad you're here. I was waiting for you. I want to start by saying, rest in heavenly peace to the great Wayne Shorter. He was a very influential jazz saxophonist and composer, and I'm happy that I got to see him perform not too long ago with Herbie Hancock. You know, my dad used to take it very hard when a famous jazz musician passed away. When Miles Davis passed, you would have thought it was his own son. But we're going to continue with our jazz history in a moment. But you know what I got to do first? I got to taste something. And right now is this sweet potato pie, which I'm a little bit hesitant to show you because the top, it looks so burnt. I have not mastered how to make this pie. Like, the top always comes out looking burnt, but it's not burnt. It's just that, I don't know, maybe my oven is too high. And you would think after all these decades, like, I would have had this thing perfected. But anyways, this is the first bite, so I'm pretty eager to see how it turned out, because I didn't measure. I never really measure my sweet potato pies anymore. I used to measure, the sugar, but I use sweetened condensed milk, and I just figured, hey, let me just use half the can. Let's see. This is wonderful. Wow. The taste is perfect. Whatever, regardless of what it looks like. Yes, I come from a southern mama. Yes, I do. Now, if I was actually raised in the South, my pies wouldn't be looking like this. It's just good, y'all. It's just good. Alright, let me put it down so we can get into the story. Don't you just love a film festival? I know I sure do. These Contigo bottles, I kid you not, I put this in this bottle like 12 hours ago, and it is still cold. Actually, no, it's probably closer to 10 hours ago. It is still cold. Well, alright, let's get into the story. What are we talking about today? Yippee! Duke Ellington. Jazz's greatest composer and arranger was Edward Kennedy Duke Ellington. From his initial development as a pianist to the creation of his orchestra, Ellington displayed a style so individual that it has rarely been seriously imitated. His radio broadcast from Harlem's Cotton Club in the late 1920s helped to spread his music across America and made him a jazz figure second in popularity only to Louis Armstrong. Did you know Duke Ellington's father sometimes worked as a butler at White House and embassy functions in Washington, D.C.? Born in 1899, Duke Ellington enjoyed as close to a middle-class upbringing as an African-American could experience in segregated Washington. Raised in an atmosphere of culture, he originally planned to become a commercial artist. But he grew fascinated with the piano music of James P. Johnson, which he taught himself from piano rolls Johnson had produced. By the time Ellington finished high school, he was developing a reputation as a pianist, composing his own feature tunes and leading small combos. Ellington relocated to New York in 1923, and over the next 4 years, he built a band that would grow to 10 pieces during an extended engagement at a speakeasy alternately known as the Hollywood Cafe and the Kentucky Club. Ellington taught himself harmony and orchestration through trial and error. He moved beyond his initial enthusiasm for stride piano and the grand flourishes of popular white dance orchestras to the challenges of jazz as played by Southern black musicians. By Ellington's own account, the catalyst was Sidney Bechet, with whom he collaborated briefly in 1925. Already attuned to notions of racial pride and black culture as a result of his upbringing in Washington, Ellington was fascinated by Bechet's use of the blues and improvisation, much as Ernst Ansermet had been 6 years earlier. Building the Ellington Orchestra. Bechet was not available to become a permanent member of his orchestra, but Ellington began to expand his ensemble of old Washington friends and schoolmates by adding such key players from the South as bassist Wellman Broad and clarinetist Barney Biggard, both New Orleans natives, and South Carolina trumpeter James Bubber Miley. The point was not to present an urbanized version of Southern music, but rather to capture American Negro life in all of its variations. Boston saxophonists Harry Carney and Johnny Hodges and New York trombonist Joe Tricky Sam Nanton, other late 1920s arrivals, became equally essential components of the Ellington mix. The orchestra as instrument. Ellington could take exercise figures and throw away phrases that the members of his band played and turn them into such big classic songs as Mood Indigo, based on a pattern Biggard employed while warming up. Entire arrangements were built around such maverick sounds as the growls that Miley and Nanton obtained when using bathroom plungers to mute their horns. Some have claimed that Ellington took credit for ideas and entire compositions that originated with his sidemen, yet the cliche that the orchestra was Ellington's true instrument is closer to the mark. Musicians sounded different and generally better when playing under Ellington's leadership for the same reason that other arrangers found it so difficult to recreate the Ellington style. Because Ellington was writing not simply notes to be played by interchangeable musicians, but sounds that were a direct reflection of a specific combination of individuals. The public became aware of Ellington once he moved uptown to the Cotton Club late in 1927. This Harlem night spot, which catered to slumming downtown whites and did not admit black customers, had floor shows with an African theme. Ellington's use of such exotic touches as raucous brass figures, mysterious low-reed voicings, and, on Creole Love Call, even the wordless singing of a female vocalist only furthered the effect. His style became known as jungle music, and the band even released some records under the name the Jungle Band. Did you know Ellington circumvented contractual obligations by recording extensively under pseudonyms, including the Whoopee Makers, Warren Mills and his Blue Serenaders, the Harlem Foot Warmers, the 10 Blackberries, and 6 Jolly Jesters. Cotton Club and Radio. Early Ellington classics cut before the band moved to the Cotton Club, especially East St. Louis Toodaloo and Black and Tan Fantasy, had already set the tone and begun to build the orchestra's reputation. The Cotton Club provided the added feature of regular live broadcasts over the new home entertainment phenomenon, the radio. Until his tenure at the club ended in 1931, Ellington's remote broadcast helped to spread his music across America and made him a jazz figure, second in popularity only to Armstrong. Ellington matures. Never content merely to dispense ersatz primitivism, Ellington developed a world in sound over the next decade. Riff-based pieces like Rockin' and Rhythm 1930 and It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing 1932 anticipated the coming swing craze. Mood Indigo 1930, Sophisticated Lady 1933, and Solitude 1934 were haunting ballads that gained even more greater popularity after lyrics were added. 2 1936 works, Echoes of Harlem for Miley's successor trumpeter Charles Cootie Williams and Clarinet Lament for Bigard, introduced the concept of mini concertos for individual soloists. Each new composition created a vivid image of life as Ellington and his musicians knew it, and none of his early music was more vivid than his first attempts at extended composition. Creole Rhapsody 1931 and Reminiscing in Tempo 1935. Must know, everything had a picture or was descriptive of something, Duke Ellington once explained. The Duke at 40. For a time after big band swing became popular in the late 1930s, Ellington's more ambitious music seemed to diverge from popular taste. Yet he persevered, producing brilliant and diverse new works at a superhuman pace. By 1943, important new contributors had joined his orchestra. Ben Webster, the first star tenor saxophone soloist to be featured in the band. Jimmy Blanton, the revolutionary young bassist. And Billy Strayhorn, a songwriter from Pittsburgh, who would become Ellington's most valuable collaborator over the next 30 years. And Ellington was in the midst of his most creative period. Don Redman and Chick Webb. Chick Webb, one of the first great jazz drummers and big band leaders. Ellington's approach, built upon the often eccentric sound of his musicians plus his own magical ability to blend these sounds in new ways, was too personal and complex to become the norm for jazz orchestras. The strategies Don Redman introduced with Fletcher Henderson setting section against section, often in call and response exchanges, varying thematic phrases known as riffs to underscore and offset improvised solos, were easier to grasp, and as a result became widely imitated. Redman refined the style with McKinney's Cotton Pickers, the band he joined as musical director after leaving Henderson in 1927. And in later groups, under his own name, William Chick Webb, a small, hunchbacked drummer from Baltimore added such a propulsive beat to the orchestra. He led that from 1927 until his death 12 years later, it consistently prevailed over all competitors in band battles held at Webb's Harlem base, the Savoy Ballroom. From 1933 on, Webb benefited from the contributions of arranger-composer Edgar Sampson, who wrote the classic Stompin' at the Savoy. 2-beat and 4/4 time. While Webb's band made its name playing for dancers at the ballroom known as the home of Happy Feet, the band of Jimmy Lunsford garnered more attention for the tightly choreographed flourishes of its stage shows, in which the trumpeters would toss and then catch their horns in unison, and several members would temporarily abandon their instruments for glee club vocals and dance routines. The ensemble performed with similar precision when playing the arrangements of pianist Ed Wilcox and trumpeter Melvin Cy Oliver, employing a crisp 2-beat rhythmic feeling that became a Lunsford trademark. Both the swing and the ensemble execution were looser in the great Kansas City bands of Benny Moulton and Andy Kirk and the Walter Page Blue Devils of Oklahoma City, which by 1930 were introducing a more flowing feeling into the music. Ensemble precision and showmanship helped make Jimmy Lunsford's orchestra one of jazz's premier ensembles in the 1930s. And with that, I have got to get another taste of pie. My pie. Hey, did you know that you can't get it wrong? Because it's never done, that's why. You cannot be other than worthy. You ever feel like something is too good? Well, that's how this tastes. Even with its burnt crust and burnt top. It's so crispy I could eat it like this. But see, that soft part. Now that's the part. Lord, when you know how to cook for yourself, that's one of the greatest gifts. Because I'd have to travel for some pie like that. Well, thanks for listening and watching. If you like what I'm doing, hey, feel free to donate to my Cash App. And please like and subscribe. Catch me in the next video, and may you find lasting happiness. Bye.